Welcome back for another stretching break with Coach Jess. Let's start with a standing knee hug to chest. Stand tall through the down leg, hug that top knee up towards the chest, stand nice and tall. We really want to emphasize standing tall through the down leg, so really emphasize that hip extension, squeeze the glute. Head and chest remain nice and high. Make sure you're not hyperextending the back to get into this position. Next up is quad stretch. Opposite hand, opposite foot. Reach up nice and tall towards the sky. Notice that we're not pitched forward here. We're maintaining a nice upright posture. Imagine a straight line being drawn from the top of your fingertips all the way down to the knee on the same side. Head and chest remain high. And last rep. Next, we're going to transition to an ankle cradle. So we're going to grab over top, support underneath the knee, pull it up to a 45-degree angle. Once again, stand nice and tall, emphasize hip extension through the down leg. Same thing on the opposite side, stand tall, squeeze the glute. Head and chest stay high. Next up, we're going to do the same thing on each side with an added variation. Once we get high, we're going to drop it down low by resting our ankle right above our knee and sinking down into a standing figure 4 stretch. You should feel this in the hip of the bent leg, the leg that's crossed over. Once again, stand up nice and tall. And then when you're ready, we'll drop it down into that standing figure 4 position. Make sure those hips go down and back. Next, we're going to give a little bit of love to our ankles. So we're going to do some ankle rockers, back onto the heels and up onto the toes. So make sure you're pushing through the balls of the feet. You want to imagine that you're pressing and smushing your big toe down into the ground like you're trying to catch a bug underneath there. Make sure you're not flaring out the ankles. Next, we're going to transition into a Saigon squat. So we're going to bend forward to grab the toes. If you can't reach the toes, that's okay. Pull yourself into as deep of a squat as you can go into. Notice that the toes and the knees are turned out slightly. This is to allow for external rotation at the hip to get into the deep squat position. Raise the hips, shake it out if you need to. We'll pull ourselves back down into the deep squat, and we're going to add in an arm raise. So maintaining a high head and chest position, we're going to lift one arm at a time. Trying to keep the arm as straight as possible. And notice that the heels are firmly planted on the ground. Next, we're going to sit back to get ready for some windshield wipers. So our knees and our toes are at 90-degree angles. We're going to drop the knees from side to side. When one knee comes down, it should be about level with the heel of the opposite foot. So we're just going to alternate sides here to get a little bit of rotation through the hips. Try to make sure that that joint capsule is nice and warmed up, not just to forward and backward movements, but also to rotational movements as well. Next, come to your hands and knees. We're going to transition into a pigeon stretch. So the front leg is bent, back leg is nice and straight. Make sure that your body is in nice straight alignment. We're just going to hang out here for a few deep breaths. Make sure you're belly breathing into this position. Square up those hips. And now, if you can't get all the way to the ground, you can also put a yoga block or some pillows underneath your hips to raise you up higher off the ground. You can modify, take it down to the elbows, or you can go all the way down, head onto the ground or on top of the hands to get a deeper stretch. So we're very slowly going to come out of this. Lifting up into a plank position and then just switching the forward leg. Once again, squaring up the hips, sitting as tall as possible. Like I said, if you need to add some pillows or yoga blocks underneath your hips in this position, you can. That'll help to ease you into the stretch. If you'd like a different variation to get a little bit deeper, you can drop it down to the forearms. And then final variation would be to drop it all the way down, head resting on the hands or on the ground. And just deep breathing here. Keep those hips nice and square. Slowly coming up out of position, unwinding that leg. Then we're going to drop it back into child's pose. So we're pulling our hips back to our heels. Arms are nice and extended through the shoulder and the elbow. And we're just deep breathing here for as long as you'd like. And that concludes our stretching break for today.